recording?
Yes, I am. So, we're taking it one step farther, looking at quadratics and writing their actual equations when given the graph. So, last class you looked at picking out the vertex, picking out the intercepts, deciding if it had a max or a min. So, today you're going to use that information in order to actually write the equation of the graph that they give you. So when we're writing the equations, the first thing you want to do is
Are we
find.
gonna write? Are we gonna write equations for like all the functions we're gonna go over?
We are. Yeah. Isn't this exciting?
Okay.
Yeah. So you're going to find the vertex. And some other point on the graph. So you need the vertex and another point in order to find your equation. So remember, vertex is that middle point. It's either a max or a min. And then when I'm picking another point, I always want to use something that's like right on an intersection or has pretty numbers, because if I were to pick like this point on the graph here, then I have to estimate where it's at, and I'm not going to probably estimate it accurately enough to get a correct answer. So I'm going to make sure when I'm picking other points, I use my vertex, and then I'm going to use points that are like in nice places on the graph that go like right through intersections. And you may have noticed on your last classwork that some of the graphs even specifically gave you, they like pinpointed specifically which points they wanted you to use, or the prettier points that were nice whole numbers. So you always want to make sure you're picking points that are whole numbers just to make your calculation a little bit easier. So then you're going to plug the vertex in for h and k in your equation. Plug the point in for x and y. We're going to solve for a. And then our very last step will be to plug everything in that we know to write the equation. And I'm going to show you what that math looks like once we get these steps written down. So if we're going to actually write an equation from a graph, I'm going to take that same graph that was in the example, and we're going to actually write the equation. So the first thing I want to do is pick out the vertex. And my vertex here is my point right here, which is 1, -1. And then I'm going to pick another point on the graph, which I personally prefer positive numbers. So when I pick the other point, I'm going to use this one because I want positive numbers. I don't want to use the other side of the graph because then I'm going to have negative numbers. So I'm going to use the point 0, 3. And then you remember from last class that our standard form equation for a parabola or quadratic equation is f of x equals a times x minus h squared plus k. So now all I have to do is plug into my equation and solve for A, because I have my H, I have my K, I have my X, and I have my Y. So when I go and do this, I want to plug into my equation. F of x is the same thing as saying y. So where I have my f of x, I'm going to write 3 equals, I don't have anything for a, so I'm just going to keep my a the way it is. X is 0, so I'm going to replace my x with a 0 minus my h is 1. So I'm plugging in a 1, close my parentheses and square it, plus my k is a negative 1. So I'm really going to make that, I'm going to end up making it minus 1. Are you okay with how I plug the numbers in? Yeah. Okay, so now all I have to do from here is solve for a. So I'm going to bust out my PEMDAS, my order of operations, and I'm going to say, okay, I've got 3 equals a, 0 minus 1 gives me negative 1 squared minus 1, because I've always got to do parentheses first, right? Now I'm going to do my exponents. So I get 3 equals negative 1 squared just gives me positive 1, because it's saying negative 1 times negative 1. We've got 1a minus 1. And now I've just got to solve for a, so I'm going to add 1 to both sides. When I do that, I get 4 equals 1a, or 4 equals a. So now that I have my a, I can write my final equation. And I want my final equation to still say f of x equals, but now I know a is 4. I still want my x in my final equation, and then I'm just plugging in my vertex to my final equation. So my h is 1 squared minus 1. So my final equation should only have your h value, your k value, and your a value in it. So that extra point that we picked out is just to help you solve for a. You don't need it in your final equation. And your classwork today just it gives you the graphs, and then it's like fill in the blank. So I've already typed out like the f of x, the squared, and you just have to click on the little boxes and fill in a, h, and k. Okay? You want to see another one? No, you feel super confident about this? All right.